Son, precious Lamb of God, Messiah, Holy One. Oh, thank you, oh my Father, for giving us your Son and leaving your Spirit till the work on earth is done. In Jesus, my Redeemer, name above all names, precious Lamb of God, Messiah, hope for sinners slain. And thank you, oh my Father, for giving us your Son and leaving your Spirit till the work on earth is done. And when I stand in glory, I will see his face, and there I'll serve my King forever in that holy day. And thank you, oh my Father, for giving us your Son and leaving your Spirit till the work on earth is done. Oh, thank you, oh my Father, for giving us your Son and leaving your Spirit till the work on earth is done. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that he should give his only Son to make a wretch's treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Sing that. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether worthy, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me.
Let's start with a story. I like stories. You've probably learned that by now. I think we need to start with a story. There was once a woman who owned a pizza place. A pizza place in New York City. It was one of the small ones that maybe you've seen on TV. You know, there's no seating area, there's no tables and chairs. You just walk in and there's a counter in front of you and then a massive brick oven to cook the pizza. Can you picture it with me? When I was in New York City, I went into this pizza place and the walls were all this kind of brownish orange tile. But it looked like it was from another era. It was just frozen in time, and they had all these family pictures all over the wall. But what was most prominent was that there was very little in this pizza place. There was the brick oven, and there was a cash register, and that was pretty much it. When you walk up to this pizza place on the sidewalk, there's a sandwich board sign out there, and same thing, it's not fancy. They really just had two phrases in bold letters, and one was brick oven pizza, and the second was 99-cent slices. It's a great sign when you are hungry in New York City and you are walking down the sidewalk. It forces you to come in because, I mean, what's a better risk than 99 cents for a slice of pizza, right? If it's not good, you continue on your way, but if it's good, I mean, that's a good 99 cents well spent. And so I walk into this pizza place, I hand them my dollar bill, I grab my slice, and I walk down the sidewalk excited. You know, I do the classic pizza thing where you fold it in half so that you get optimal levels of dough and cheese and tomato sauce into your mouth. And I take my first bite, and I do this thing that I don't do very often or maybe ever. I immediately turn around and I head back to the pizza place because it might be the best thing I've ever eaten in my life in that moment. It was such a good slice of pizza that I turn around, I walk back in, and the woman that I later find out is the owner is at the counter, and I say, I'm sorry, I think I was still holding my pizza crust in my hand. I'm sorry, but I need to ask you, or I guess not ask you, tell you that pizza was amazing. It's ridiculous. And so, you know, she kind of says, oh, thanks, I appreciate it. And I say, can I ask you a question? And in only a way, you know, a New Yorker could, she kind of says, sure, yeah, just ask it and get out of here. And so I say, what's it made of? And I know that's a silly question, but like what actual ingredients, like what is... I've had pizza before. This tastes more than just pizza. And so she gets excited and she says, it's not just pizza. I mean, we get our wheat ground specifically at a mill in upstate New York, and they bring it just for us. We have a special blend with them. We get tomatoes all the way from Italy. They're San Marzano tomatoes. And this local deli pulls fresh cheese for us every single week. It's really good ingredients. And so I ask a question, like only a Canadian could. Why aren't you charging more for it? That's ridiculous, right? 99 cents should not have specially milled flour from upstate New York. And so why aren't you charging more? That's what I really want to know from this lady. And she says, because that's not what we do here. When my dad opened this business decades ago, he had this idea that we wanted to make pizza with really good ingredients. We wanted it to be affordable for locals. And so that's what we're doing. We're not worried about making a big profit. My dad taught me from a really early age that it's more than just that. We want to run our business a certain way, and that is like we're doing. This is what our family business is all about. And so we talked a little bit longer, and she was, again, really excited to share some of the other stuff that she was doing at her business. She was explaining how pretty much nothing had changed at this pizza place for 50 years plus. I mean, very similar ingredients, same recipe, same oven that they imported in from Italy. They were running it the same way. But she had made some upgrades, some improvements, right? She had decided that they were finally going to put pineapple on pizza. Something that her grandfather would not have liked. She started a social media account where she started, taking little videos to show behind-the-scene things. She had done minor redecorating, but at the core of this business, the core had never changed. Little things had changed at the perimeter, but at the core, nothing had changed. This was a business that said, we want to take care of people by using high-quality ingredients and make it affordable, because that's what our business does. That's how we run our business. I'm really curious, does anyone work in their family business right now? It's kind of a dying thing, Most people, you move away, you go to college, you join someone else's family business, a big corporation. But some people continue in their family business, and there's naturally things that just continue to go with that with that business. There are things that you continue to do because this is what you were taught is a priority. This is what you feel is a priority, and so you continue on. But whether you are in your family business or whether, like most of us, if not all of us, we are going elsewhere, I think we kind of have that still because of our families, right? I bet you there's something. And I bet you it's something that your spouse is irritated at, that you do because, right, it's what my family always did. It's how we always did it. It's always the way we do that. That's how we do the dishes here. And your spouse is saying, well, that's not how my family does it. We've got different priorities. All of us have these ingrained things that say this is what we value, this is what we prioritize. And so this past week I was thinking about my family business. I mean, we didn't have a business together, but when I reflect on my parents, when I reflect on my upbringing, I really think my family business was people. Because my dad, I mean, he's not the most, I would say, upfront with his emotions. He's not going to have a big heart-to-heart with somebody. But it was just a normal part of my childhood to see my dad running out the door at any hour of the day to go help somebody. It was very common to say, my dad, we would be driving back from my summer job, and I would see my dad on a roof shingling. Not because he's getting paid, but because that family needs a new roof. It was very common for him to run out to the church and fix a leak that was happening there, or to help somebody who was stuck in the ditch. He, without saying it, was teaching us that you always have enough time for another person. That was the business that he was in. And my mom was very similar, but in a different way, in her own way. My mom is her priority is being present with people. Being with people. being compassionate and considerate, thinking about other people. And so it was really common when I was growing up that she would be on the phone talking to people about what they need prayer for. And then it was really common for us to be sitting around the table or watching something on TV, and then she would sneak into her bedroom so that she could pray for someone in the church. It's really common still where when one of her grandkids are sick, she drops everything, she takes care of them, and always at her own expense. Right? She stops taking care of herself so that she can take care of other people. And so I don't know if I could have articulated it when I was younger, but I think my family business was people. But in their own ways, you know, my dad helping people in more of a material sense, and my mom being present emotionally. That was our business. It wasn't said explicitly like at that pizza place when I was talking to that owner, but it was clear through their actions what was a priority at our house. So let's jump into what Jesus has to say about this. Luke chapter 6. But I say to everyone in this family, love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who are abusive towards you. Whoever hits you on the cheek, stand there and take it. Whoever takes your shirt, gift wrap your coat. Give to everyone who asks of you, and whoever takes away what is yours, do not demand it back. Here's a simple rule of thumb for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you, then grab the initiative and do it for them. If you only love the lovable, do you expect a pat on the back? Run-of-the-mill sinners do that. If you only help those who help you, do you expect a medal? Garden variety sinners do that also. If you only give for what you hope to get out of it, do you think that's charity? The stingiest of pawnbrokers do that also. But love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great. Live out your God-created identity, the way our God lives towards us. For God is kind to ungrateful people. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Don't pick on people. Don't jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Go easy on people, you'll find life a lot easier. Give away your life, and you'll find life given back. But not merely given back with bonus and blessing. Giving, not getting, is the way. Generosity creates generosity. Luke chapter 6. For me, the message that Jesus is preaching here is a message of absurd and vibrant generosity. Like, it feels a little bit ridiculous. It feels too much. It feels unattainable or not realistic, and I think that's done on purpose. I mean, Jesus is saying, think of the best thing you can do for the worst person you know, and do it for them. Think of what you'd like someone to do for you, and do it for others. When you think of people who you would like to be rude to, and let's be honest, we all think of someone in our life that we would much rather be rude to. Don't. Be generous. Jesus wants to add this vibrancy and radical generosity to the lives of his audience. And when I've read this passage in the past, I don't know if you've read it before, but I feel like often we try to explain it away. I've heard a lot of different interpretations and say, well, Jesus didn't actually mean that. Maybe he's trying to do something in culture, something a little bit sneaky. We're still supposed to have rights and stand up for ourselves. And I agree with that. I'm not saying we have to be doormats, but maybe we just need to assume that Jesus meant it how he meant it. Maybe this is what Jesus is saying, that I'm going to give you such a radical and absurd picture of generosity, not to be an extra rule book in your life, not to say, do I have the check marks, am I doing things properly, but to say, this is what life could look like. This is something that we can aspire to, and more than that, this is who our God is. When I go to my next logical question, and if you remember my last sermon, maybe you'll realize I like this answer. But the question here is this actually attainable? Can we actually live like this, or is that too far? And I think Jesus' point is yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, we can live like this. Yes, we should choose generosity and in a ridiculous way, but also no. We can't live up to that. We can't be this generous, and that is a reminder of how generous our God is towards us. Our God is going to the nth degree. Our God is going so far with generosity and care and compassion. I mean, if you go back to Luke chapter 6 this week and you read it, I think you'll realize that it's really a list of who God is. And how God treats not just humanity, but all of creation. And so Jesus is saying, this is what our God looks like. Let's do the same. And you might not be able to get as far, you might struggle and stumble, but the point isn't to have more rules in your life. The point is to add more energy to your life. To say, this is the perspective that I'm going to view the world from. This is the point of, this is the lens I'm going to use so that I can, rather than say, I need to think of the world black and white in terms of right and wrong or rules, I'm going to look at the world through generosity. I'm going to look at the world in a different way because this is how my God views the world. You are to be like this because that is what God is like. It's an attitude that is light and spirit-filled and generous. And so really what I think Jesus is trying to say here to his original audience is this is God's business. God's in the business of generosity, and now it's your turn. You're taking over now. You get to step in now where God has been generous for generation upon generation upon generation. Now you get to step into the family business. You get to update things a little bit. You get to redecorate. Hey, you get to add some new stuff. But at the core of our business, nothing is changing. We're going to be generous and absurdly so. We are going to stand out as a business that is full of generosity, where maybe someone walks down the sidewalk and does a U-turn and says, you got to tell me about the ingredients here. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what is going on, but I want to know more. And you can say, this is how my family's always run this business. This is how we've always done it. I've upgraded a little bit. I've redecorated a little bit. But this is how my God is, and this is how we run our family business here. But here's kind of here's the crazy thing for me. If I'm really reflecting on that moment, and I'll be honest, most of my messages, I don't really talk about evangelism a lot. And I don't really think that's a super strong emphasis in the Anabaptist tradition. But if there's any point for me to talk about evangelism, about sharing our faith, sharing our hope we have in Christ, I think it looks kind of like this. When I left that pizza place, it sounds ridiculous, but if you like food like I do, maybe you'll understand. When I left that pizza place, I felt changed. Not because it was a mind-blowing pizza, but I felt inspired to not just look at it as simple flour and water and yeast and tomato and let's just make a pizza, but the amount of passion in that woman's voice to say, this stuff matters. This is important to how we make our pizzas. I couldn't help but go home and say, I got to look at pizza differently now. I mean, it's not cutting it anymore. Just going to the grocery store and grabbing that frozen bag of dough-ish stuff isn't cutting it. I think I need to look at this differently. It impacted me on a really profound level. But here's the thing that I think is so interesting, and I hope you're seeing the connection to how we share our faith. There are thousands of people who walk into that pizza place and just see it as pizza. That's great. Does that mean that they are fulfilling their mission any less? Does that mean that they are running their family business any less than when I go in and have this profound encounter? I don't think so. They're saying, this is how our family business runs this. We're going to stand out. And if you resonate with this message, if you get inspired by this, then you're going to take it from there. There's going to be people who just eat it as pizza. There's going to be people who probably don't like it. And I'm okay with that. I think that's fine, you know. It's not meant to resonate with everyone in the same way, the same as our faith doesn't have to. But I hope that as they're running their family business, I hope we can be in ours, which is generosity and love and compassion, which is looking to others' needs before ours. And so when we're standing in a grocery line and we decide, I'm going to be a little bit extra generous right now, maybe somebody will say, why'd you do that? You say, this is what my family business is all about. We're all about generosity. Or maybe they don't notice, or maybe they're frustrated by it. I have no idea how they're going to react, and I don't think that's the point. I think the point is to say, let's understand who our God is. Let's understand what our God values. And then let's keep that at the core of our being. Not as a list of rules and checklists, but as color to our life. To say, I can view the world from a different perspective. I can do things a little bit differently. I can look at the world differently. And if somebody asks me, I can say, this is how my family business has always been done. This is what we are all about. I am going to be like this because my God is always like this. Loving enemies, being generous, not being so attached to our material possessions that we have a hard time giving away. Not being so self-centered that we don't recognize other people in our lives. That's what our God is about, and so we can step into that family business and also understand that we can grow and change and add and remove, but the core always stays the same. Because that's what our God is like, and that's what we can be like. And so it's a really simple message this morning, and maybe we'll bookend it with another story. Are you okay with that? Here's a story of how God's family affected someone else. And I love this story. It's a great one. One of the greatest Jewish scholars to ever write about Jesus in the modern era was a guy named David Flusser. David Flusser, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but David was a world-renowned Jewish scholar on Jesus. And the reason I'm very clear on that distinction is to say that David Flusser did not follow the way of Christ, or I should say did not call himself a Christian. David was an Orthodox Jew. He taught at the really famous Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He was a devout Orthodox Jew, and because he was an Orthodox Jew, but a lot of his scholarship was on Jesus, a lot of people had a hard time with him. They disagreed with him. They disapproved of his scholarship. And so one day, one of his most brilliant students, they were invited to be a guest student at another university, I believe somewhere in the States. And when the professor there found out that this student was connected to David Flusser, the professor gave this student a bad mark just for association. Okay, brilliant student, remarkable ability to write papers and to explain complex ideas, but simply because he was associated with David, he got a bad mark. And so he returns back to Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and they continue on their way, David continuing to do his research, and then one day, a coincidence, non-coincidence happens, where a student under that professor gets invited to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and specifically to work under David Flusser. And this student, in comparison, was not the brightest, and did not have a great work ethic, and wasn't putting in the same amount of effort, and was really struggling. And even though his work was not very good, David Flusser insisted to his teaching aide that student is going to get an A. His teaching assistant protested. I mean, how could he do that? Especially understanding what that professor had done to one of his students. How can he do that for this student? And David Flusser insists. He says, give him an A. This is something that I've learned from Jesus. That's how he was impacted by understanding what God's family business is all about. This I have learned from Jesus.
To the river I am going, bringing sins I cannot bear. Come and cleanse me, come forgive me. Lord, I need to meet you there. Precious Jesus, I am ready to surrender every care. Take my hand now, lead me closer. Lord, I need to meet you there. Need